ASMR Retro Forever. Hey guys, welcome back to another ASMR Retro. Today I'm going to continue my CD collection series. Last time I showed you my Metallica collection, and this time, as you can see, I'm going to do my Megadeth CD collection. Although I'm probably going to split it up into two parts. There's a lot of CDs to get through, and I have a lot to say, I think, so we'll see how it goes. Before I get started, I want to say this video, let's not bash one band or the other. A lot of people say, oh, Megadeth sucks, Metallica's the best, or Metallica's the best, or Megadeth's the best, Metallica sucks, whatever, you know what I mean? And I don't take people like that seriously. I mean, you can't think one band is awesome and one sucks. They're both great bands, and you can have your preference, of course, but, and what's wrong with that? What's wrong with having two great bands? Why would you want one crappy band and one great band? They're both great bands, and that's awesome. We're lucky for it. So anyway, let's get started. Whoops. Okay. Let's get started here. Actually, before I get started, let me talk a little bit about my history with Megadeth. So in the last CD video, I said that Metallica was kind of like my first, they were the first heavy metal band I got into, and actually they got me into heavy metal. And for a while, I was a huge Metallica fanboy. Like, I was one of those people saying that Metallica was awesome and everyone else sucks, right? So it was dumb, but that's how it was for a while. And the first time I saw Megadeth was, I saw the music video for 99 Ways to Die. It was a music station called Much Music here in Canada, and they were doing the end of year, like a special 100 best videos of the year or something like that. And 99 Ways to Die by Megadeth was one of the videos, and it was probably number 99. That would have made sense, but and I saw them, and I'm like, I remember saying this out loud, and it's pretty dumb, but this is what I said. I said, who the hell are these guys? They're Metallica wannabes. And at the time, I had no idea who Megadeth was. I didn't know their history. I didn't know Dave Mustaine was part of Metallica before and all that. So, and the weird thing is that 99 Ways to Die is not really like Metallica at all. Like, it doesn't sound like a typical Metallica song, so I don't even know why I said that. But that was my first exposure. I do have to admit, though, Dave was doing some pretty goofy faces in that video. So maybe that's why I had some, I don't know, dislike for them or something. But anyway, so then, I remember my friend really got into Megadeth, and then we kind of started a bit of a rivalry. Like, oh, I would say Metallica's better, he would say Megadeth is better, and I actually said this, okay? I should be in jail for saying this, to be honest with you, but I actually said that Kirk Hammett was better than Marty Friedman. Yes. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, no disrespect to Kirk, but he's no Marty. I'll just say that much. But I enjoy both their work, don't get me wrong, but yeah, that just shows you my level of bias at the time. But I did start to like Megadeth, and I think the first album I heard was Countdown to Extinction, and I'll get into that later. But, so yeah, that's basically, it didn't take long before I became a big fan of Megadeth as well, and then a whole bunch of other bands. So anyway, let's get to the albums. So as you can see here, the first album, Megadeth, and yes, they spell it that way on purpose, is Killing Is My Business. Now, this is not the first album that I bought, but yeah, it's the first Megadeth album, and you can see the parental advisory warning here, kind of like the seal of approval in my opinion. And this came out in 1985. Of course, the lead vocalist and rhythm guitar guy, whatever, is Dave Mustaine. Chris Boland was on lead guitar. Dave Ellefson was on bass guitar, and Gar Samuelson was on drums. And this album cover, let's start with the album cover here. It's pretty awesome, but this this is actually the remaster that they re-released years later. But if you look at the original cover, it's pretty bad. It's basically like this, but it's a real picture of a skull. I mean, it's not a real skull, but it's a picture of a skull with, you know, the glasses and everything. And there's not quite as much. I'm not sure if there's anything in the background. I can't remember. But it looks pretty awful, very amateurish. But the skull became known as Vic, sort of their Megadeth mascot. But this is a much, much better artwork for the cover on this remaster. So let's take a look at the back here, the track listings. So there's Last Rites, Love to Death. This is a cool song. It starts off with sort of a cool classical piano sounding thing, which I believe Dave is playing that part. And it just turns into this crazy over the top, fast, aggressive song. It's hard to explain. Killing is my, you know what, I'll just read through the tracks and then comment later. So killing is my business, and business is good. The skull beneath the skin, Rattlehead, Chosen Ones, Looking Down the Cross, Mechanics, and These Boots. And actually, the first time I heard this album, at that point in my metal journey, I was used to it was still pretty early on in my metal journey, and I was used to the highly produced and polished Metallica songs and like the Metallica albums and Megadeth albums like Countdown to Extinction. So when I heard this, wow, I was like, the production is pretty rough. This is a remaster, but the original, from what I remember, had pretty rough sounding production. This is an improvement, this remaster. I usually don't like remasters, but I think this one's pretty good. But I have to do side-by-side comparison to know for sure. But yeah, the first time I heard it, it was just too much. And it's not just the production, just the aggressiveness and the, I don't know what to call it, but the rawness of it was a little bit too much. I wasn't used to it, so I thought it was a terrible album. And I remember commenting that it sounds like Dave and, who was it? Chris Boland were making mistakes, but specifically Dave Solo sounds like he was missing notes and stuff like that. Maybe he was, but it doesn't bother me now. It kind of sounds, that's kind of part of the appeal to me now. But yeah, so it was very hard for me to get into when I first heard it, but I did remember after a while thinking, hey, you know what, if this album had good production, it would be one of the best albums ever. But anyways, years later, I ended up buying the remaster and realizing how good this album actually is. Not necessarily because the production is better, but by that time I was more, I don't want to say evolved, but I progressed further in my metal journey, and I was much more open to different production sounds and stuff like that. So, and now I love this album. I think it's maybe the best of the first four thrash albums like Slayer, Anthrax, Metallica, Megadeth. This might be the best debut album, just in terms of aggressiveness and that raw realness factor. It feels like Dave is really angry, and he had a reason to be angry after getting, you know, basically kicked out from Metallica. Metallica using a lot of his songs, or a lot of the riffs that he wrote and stuff. So it feels real, and that's what I like about it, you know. But yeah, it definitely has. I wouldn't recommend this as a first Megadeth album to buy if you have never heard of Megadeth, and you're not used to like really heavy, not heavy, but like really fast and aggressive stuff and stuff that's not like super polished. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this for a first album, but it's really good. It's really good. I'll just say that. Rattlehead. It's like a really fast song. It's kind of like their version of Whiplash in a sense. Not that it sounds the same, but the same idea, that really super fast song that's supposed to get you pumped up. Chosen Ones is actually a pretty cool song. It's probably the most commercial songs, you know what I mean, on the album, except for These Boots, I guess, but, well, actually, no, not really. Yeah, it just has sort of more of a radio-friendly sound to it compared to the other tracks. And Mechanics, I should mention that this is, I guess technically the original version of the Four Horsemen. I can't remember, but basically this is like the Four Horsemen. It has the same, more or less the same riffs, but different lyrics and a different title, obviously. And it's a lot faster. Dave plays it a lot faster than Metallica plays it, and it's missing some riffs that Metallica added after Dave left. You know, that part that goes kind of slow, and then Kirk does that solo, doesn't doesn't have that part. But I can't remember if originally the song was called Mechanics in Metallica, and then when Dave left, they changed it to the Four Horsemen and changed the lyrics, or if Dave added these lyrics when he started Megadeth. I'm not sure. But I have to admit, I do like the Metallica version better. I think it's just too fast. I don't usually complain about speed, but I think that song was not meant to be played that fast. And then These Boots, which is a cover song of, was it Nancy Sinatra? These Boots Are Made for Walking. I think everybody knows that song. Now, the interesting thing is, I think the lyrics were, the lyrics. So originally, on the original version of this album, you know, the lyrics weren't the same as the These Boots lyrics. Dave added his own version of the lyrics, and there's a lot of swearing and stuff like that. But when they re-released it, whoever owns the rights to the song didn't want to allow Megadeth to have all the swear words in there, and from what I remember, they crossed out all the swear words and they said you can't say these words. So kind of as a screw you to them, all they did was censor out those words. Like the song plays as normal, but when it gets those words, you just hear beep, beep, and it beeps out all the swear words, and there's a lot of them, so it's very noticeable. And that was just kind of like a screw you to them. Like they didn't have a problem when they originally released the album with having swear words, but now they have a problem with it, so probably they wanted more money, I'm guessing that's why. But it's kind of interesting. And then there's bonus tracks. I don't really care too much about bonus tracks. They weren't there originally, obviously. Just like demos and stuff like that. And, I guess that's all I can say about this album. Yeah. Good album. Definitely good album. Good debut album. But it's definitely not everybody's cup of tea. Okay. Next up is Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? This was released in 1986, and it has the same band lineup as their first album. And this is a pretty cool album cover. Once again, it has Vic on the cover, and it's got the for sale sign, and looks like, I don't know what that is, United Nations in the background or something like that. It's all destroyed. And you got these jets flying here. That's a very ominous tone, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but and before I get into the track listing, they definitely beefed up the production on this one big time. It's such a good sounding album. Everything sounds nice and heavy, nice and clear. Just a really good sounding album, and I always thought that this was their third album, and I thought, so far so good. So what was their second album? Because this sounds so much better than their third album, but I'll get to that later. But the sound quality is just amazing, very heavy, a lot of heavy thrash stuff, and so many riffs, like riff after riff. Man, it's awesome, awesome album. And there's the band, for some reason wearing a little bit too much guyliner. Not that there's anything wrong with guyliner, but it just looks kind of funny. Looks a little bit out of place for Megadeth. And there's Dave, Chris, the other Dave, and Gar. Track listings is Wake Up Ted. Awesome way to start the album. Nice. Just starts off, boom, like, just hits you over the head. The Conjuring, cool song. Actually, I think this is one of those songs that Dave doesn't play anymore because of his current beliefs. Doesn't feel comfortable playing that anymore. Peace Sells. Peace Sells. This is an awesome song. I think this is probably their most iconic song, and maybe their most well-known song. I'm not sure about that, but there's a good, cool music video for this as well. Really good song. Devil's Island, Good Morning, Black Friday, another good song. Bad Omen, I Ain't Superstitious. I believe that, that's another cover song. They did a lot of cover songs back then. And My Last Words. So probably, Peace Sells is a classic. I would have to say that that's my favorite song on the album. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on here. And I remember the first time I heard this album was at my friend's house. He was the guy, the Megadeth fanboy. And I was still a pretty the song Peace Cells when I heard this. Like, I seen the video already and I liked the song. But when I listened to this album, I was like, nothing really stood out to me other than this song. And I remember saying something like, I don't remember the exact quote or if it even makes sense, but yeah, I think I said something like, if Metallica was like Megadeth, they would have 1 million albums. And I think what I meant by that was, I was basically saying that the only good song on this album was Peace Cells. Remember, this was what I was saying at the time. I was saying that this is the only good song on the album, and Metallica has so many good songs on each album. But if they did it like Megadeth, they would put one of those good songs on each album, and everything else would be filler, which I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but I obviously do not agree with that now. I think this is a fantastic album. Amazing. A lot of good songs on that, a lot of just a constant stream of awesome riffs. That's how I would define this album, so you definitely want to pick this one up. If you're a metal fan or a Megadeth fan, you gotta have this one in your collection. I would almost say this is kind of like their Master of Puppets in a way, but I don't know. That's an accurate comparison. Again, I'm not saying it sounds like Master of Puppets, but I don't know. Just in terms of like quality and stuff like that. Okay, next up. So far, so good. So what? And this has got to be, I never really noticed how bad this album cover was. And I just mean bad as in bad, not so bad it's good. Again, it's another picture, photograph type album cover. And I don't know why Megadeth seems to really like these types of album covers where it's a real photo. I mean, obviously there's some kind of photoshopping going on, whatever they used back then, but yeah, and it doesn't look good at all. I mean, the gun looks cool, the clothing, I guess, looks good, but the skull face, and this is fake once again, I guess, but it just looks really corny, I don't know. And then there's the earth in the background, so then where's this? Is he on the moon or something? I don't know. The concept is good, I guess, for the album cover, but I don't think they really pulled it off. Oh yeah, so this is 1988, and the band lineup was Dave Mustaine again, Dave Ellefson once again on bass, but they got Jeff Young on lead guitar and Chuck Baylor, something like that. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. On the drums, so a bit of a shuffle there. And the track listing. Oh, actually, before I say that, like I was saying before, I was convinced always that this was their second album, because the production, I don't know, it sounds not good. I don't know, it's like thin or something. I don't know how to describe it. It just doesn't sound heavy, and some of the leads are kind of ear-piercing, but not in a good way. So I don't know. But then I found out, wait a minute, this is the third album, and even the album cover, because the album cover was so crappy. I'm like, okay, this has got to be their second album, Can't be the third album. You figure they wouldn't go from a cool album cover to a really crappy one like that. But anyway, the track listing, I do like this though. This red band photo here is pretty cool. But Dave is the only one who actually looks like, scary dude or whatever. Everyone looks kind of like they're intimidated. They're intimidated by Dave. But the track listing is Into the Lungs of Hell, which is a pretty cool instrumental in the beginning. But then it gets a little bit, I don't know, wacky. That's not the right word. I don't know, I'll just leave it at that. It gets a little bit too, I know there's a word to describe this, but I can't think of it. Anyways, I'm just gonna move on. Set the World Afire is actually a pretty cool song. Anarchy in the UK is a remake, or not a remake, but a cover of a Sex Pistols song, and I do like the Megadeth version better, but either way, the song doesn't do too much for me. Mary Jane, I always thought it was about just a girl named Mary Jane, but now I'm like, wait a minute, is this about the Wacky Tobacco? I'm not 100% sure, I'd have to reread the lyrics. 502 might be my favorite song on the album. It's a song about driving fast, basically, and being chased by the cops. But it really gets you hyped up to just get in your car. And I do not, as a rule of survival. I do not listen to this song when I'm driving, because that would be bad. It would not end well. So this is a great song. Although for a long time I didn't really like it. I only started to like it more recently for some reason. In My Darkest Hour is a good song. Maybe a little bit overrated, but it is a good song. Some people say that, and I don't know if this is true or not, but that the song was about Cliff Burton, but I'm like, because this is after Cliff Burton died, the bassist of Metallica, which Dave obviously was friends with in the past, but the lyrics don't really, maybe they do, I don't know, it seems like he's singing about a girl though in the song, could be wrong, but maybe like the music was inspired by him or something like that, I don't know. Liar and Hook and Mouth. Liar's a pretty crazy, intense song, and the lyrics are pretty intense too, funny to listen to, I guess. A lot of anger in that song, that's for sure. So, it's an okay album. It's probably my least favorite Megadeth album of the first 4 or 5 albums. I would say, yeah, the first 5 albums, maybe 6 albums is my least favorite. So I wouldn't say it's essential Megadeth listening, but hey, you might have your own opinion, and that's perfectly fine too. And it's definitely the least listened to Megadeth album of the first maybe 10 Megadeth albums. Least listened to by me, that is. Okay, now, I don't know if you guys are ready for this. My favorite Megadeth album, and one of my favorite heavy metal albums of all time. Some of you guys probably know what I'm talking about. Bam. Bam. Look at that magnificence. Megadeth, Rust in Peace. Rust in Peace. Rust in Peace. Rust in Peace. So this is their 4th album, and it was released in 1990, and the lineup is Dave Mustaine, Dave Ellefson is back, but now they have the legendary Marty Friedman on lead guitar, and Nick Menza on the drums, who sadly Nick Menza's no longer with us. I believe he had a heart attack while he was playing drums on stage I don't know if it was like 5 years ago or something, which is very sad. He wasn't playing with Megadeth at the time. He left Megadeth by that point, but you know what, at least he went out doing something that he loved, playing drums on stage. How many people can say that, you know? But yeah, so Marty Friedman is the guitarist. Actually, I'll show you on the back here, in case you don't know. Marty Friedman, and there's Nick Menza. And so Marty Friedman was from, well, he had like solo albums, and he was also in a band with Jason Becker, another legendary guitarist. Cacophony. Oh, that's a great trigger word sound. Cacophony. I'll have to make a note of that. But yeah, he joined the band here, and I have to say he's one of my favorite. I don't know. Yeah, I'll probably say he's my favorite or second favorite guitarist for like solos and stuff like that. Definitely he has a very distinctive sound. Like there's a lot of guitar shredders that they all sound the same. You know what I mean? And there's a lot, like let's say Yngwie Malmsteen, if that's how you say his name. You can take any of his solos, pick one of his solos at random, okay? Remove the background music, like the rhythm, the bass, and the drums, and to try to identify, make somebody listen to it, a Malmsteen fan, make them listen to it, and try to, let them identify what song that's from. I guarantee they won't be able to do it, because all the solos sound very similar. I'm not saying it's bad, I like him, I have his albums too, or I used to, I probably sold them by now, but, it's just, Marty Friedman has very unique solos. Like you can identify, like each solo has its own sound and feel, right? So I hope that makes sense, but he's just great. That's all I can say. He plays with a lot of feeling. Maybe not the most cleanest player, but who cares about that? So yeah, I have a story about this album. Funny thing is, my brother bought this album, and my brother doesn't even like heavy metal, but he bought it for some reason, and I kind of adopted it over the years. But at first I didn't really like this album. I kind of hated it, actually. I listened to it a few times. I'm like, I just can't get into this. I didn't know what it was. And I remember I was in my basement with my friend listening to it, and I'm like, man, this album sucks. And as soon as I said that, my brother just happened to be he just happened to come downstairs and he heard me say that, and he's like, what the hell are you talking about? This album's awesome. And he cranked the volume on the radio, and for some reason, as soon as he did that, something just clicked. Like the drums. I was probably listening to the first track, Holy Wars, and the drums or something really connected with me as he turned it louder. And I think maybe that was a problem. I wasn't listening to it loud enough, and I was like, wait a minute. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, this is actually pretty cool. And I still didn't love it right away at that point, but that was kind of like the turning point. And then every time I listened to it after that, it sounded cooler and cooler and cooler and cooler. And it took a long time for it to really grow on me, but eventually I'm like, holy crap, this album is incredible. And most of my friends at the time didn't like it. Like, once I actually loved it, every time I talk to somebody, I'm like, oh, you like Megadeth? Do you like Rust in Peace? And I'm like, oh no, I hate that album. That's their worst album. So I kind of understand it. There's so much here, so much compressed into this that it can be overwhelming if you're hearing it for the first 10,000 times. But it's just an incredible album. Very heavy, very fast, a very unique sounding album. Kind of a bit of a dry sound. I don't know, that's how I would describe the riffs and stuff like that. Unique song structures. Some people say it's a concept album, which basically something, I guess it means like every song has a every song is about one long narrative, one long story kind of thing, in terms of the theme. And it kind of does, like, every song is about like military type stuff and aliens and stuff like that, but still, it's a great album. The souls, like Marty Friedman's souls, are just absolutely incredible, and they fit so perfectly with Dave's rhythm. And even Dave's solos are cool. Like in Hangar 18, there's a million solos, and they do like a lot of trade-offs. So that's when like one guitarist will do a solo, and then the other guitarist will do a solo, and then go back to the first guitarist and does a solo. And it's just, man, you gotta listen to this, man. But give it time to grow on you. Give it time. And I actually said, I'm remembering this now, at one point I actually said every heavy metal album should sound like Rust in Peace. Now that's a dumb comment, because no, every album should not sound the same. But that just shows you how much I love this album at that point. So yeah, let's read the track listing here. So, Holy Wars, Punishment 2, absolute classic. Anger 18, absolute classic, incredible solos. Actually, I think Nick Menza wrote the lyrics for this song, because he's really into like alien conspiracies and stuff like that, and that's what the song's about. And it was like one of the last songs that they recorded. It was kind of like a last second thing, and the rhythm, the verse and chorus sections are a little bit grating, but man, the solos at the second half of this song is just mind-blowing. Take No Prisoners, nice heavy song. Five Magics, Poison Was the Cure, Lucretia, Tornado of Souls, Dawn Patrol, and Rust in Peace, Polaris. And probably my favorite song, which is almost impossible, but Tornado of Souls is one of my favorites, and a lot of people mention that song, especially the solo. A lot of people say this is the best guitar solo ever recorded. It's definitely an amazing solo, and they say it's really hard to play, so you'll see a lot of people on YouTube playing this solo. Some better than others, that's for sure. So yeah, I talked a lot about this. I don't know what I can say other than you owe it to yourself to give this album a try, but don't start it if you're not gonna give it your all. You have to really give it more than one listen. And if you don't like it, then hey, what can I say? Oh yeah, and the cover is alright. The cover, I don't know, I like it because I like the album so much, but if I were just to objectively look at that and say, is that a good cover? I don't know. You got Vic here with a suit on, the world leaders in the background, he's got some glowing gem in his hand, maybe one of the Infinity Stones, I don't know. And then this alien dude in this capsule. It's okay, but I can see why it's a little bit dull. I don't know. Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction. Get that straight. There we go. So this was released in 1992, and it's the same band lineup as the previous album. This was the first Megadeth album that I heard, and enjoyed it because it was very similar production-wise to the Black Album, in a sense that it's very highly produced, highly polished, and it was a little bit more digestible than the earlier Megadeth albums, that's where I was in my metal journey at that point, so the timing was good. But this is actually the remaster version, which I don't think was necessary. Like an album, I heard the original before. I bought this more recently, but yeah, there's no reason. The production was absolutely fine. It was perfect. There's no reason to remix it, and this version sounds a little bit soft, like it's been nerfed a little bit. It's completely unnecessary. It's just a money grab, in my opinion. I only bought it because I never owned this album. My friend had it, so I finally decided to buy my own copy. The album's kind of cool, very well done, but it's a little dull. Doesn't get you hyped up, but in a way that kind of describes the album. And I'm not saying it's a good album, but they definitely kind of lost their edge a little bit. Or actually, I wouldn't say that they lost it, but for whatever reason, it's not as edgy as their previous work, you know. But it's still a good album. Let's look at the track listing. Skin of My Teeth, Symphony of Destruction, Architecture of Aggression, Foreclosure of a Dream, Sweating Bullets, This Was My Life, Countdown to Extinction, High Speed Dirt, Psychotron, Captive Honor, and Ashes in Your Mouth. And then some bonus tracks, blah blah blah, who cares? And what can I say about this album? Like I said, the production is great. Not as edgy as their previous stuff, not as heavy, not as thrashy, that's for sure. There's definitely a shift, not just in Megadeth, but a lot of bands were changing at this time. Some songs sounded like very almost uplifting or happy, but the lyrics weren't. Like Skin of My Teeth is kind of a catchy, upbeat song, but then the lyrics are not so much. They're good lyrics, but there's definitely a contrast there. And by the way, this has one of the best, not just this song, but this album actually has amazing Marty Friedman solos once again, maybe even better than Rest in Peace. Or maybe it's the production on the album that makes it sound better, but incredible solo work by Marty Friedman on this album again. Symphony of Destruction, yeah, it's a decent song. Catchy, I guess. A little overly simplistic. Foreclosure of a Dream. I remember I played the video of this song in school. For some reason, it was for a school project. I can't remember what class it was for or why. It was high school, I remember that much. And, yeah, and I gotta say, the second solo in this song is just incredible. Just incredible. Sweating Bullets, not my favorite song. That Was My Life. Countdown to Extinction, a little dull. High Speed Dirt is fun. Psychotron, Captive Honor, Ashes in Your Mouth are pretty cool too. So it's a cool album, but I don't know, it didn't age as good. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. It's a good album, but listening to it now, it feels a little bit dull. I can see why a lot of Megadeth fans would have been disappointed when this album was released compared to their previous stuff. Just in terms of the edginess, the heaviness, the thrashiness, and all that, a lot of that is lost in this album, but still very good album. If you like the Black Album by Metallica, then you'll probably like this as well. Again, not saying they sound the same, but there's some kind of similarity there. Okay, the final album that I'll do today is Youthanasia. This was the first Megadeth album that I bought that was new, if that makes sense. Like, the other albums that I bought, I was sort of catching up. I was going back and buying their previous albums that they released, and then I had to wait for this album to come out, and then when it came out, I bought it. So the anticipation was super high for me, and I think because of that, I was a little bit disappointed because I was anticipating this so much, and very similar to Metallica's Load. was going in a different direction than these bands were going in. Not just Megadeth and Metallica, but a lot of metal bands. My personal tastes were getting heavier and heavier, but the industry was kind of going the opposite direction. Not to say that's not heavy, but I mean heavy in the sense of less commercially sounding, appropriate, radio-friendly-ish kind of thing. I think you know what I mean. I don't know how to explain it, but so again, this album was a little bit disappointing for me, but we'll get into it, I guess. The album artwork is amazing. They finally got it right in using a real photograph, real people or whatever. It looks great. Whoever did this artwork, good job, brother. Good job. You got this old lady hanging up these babies to dry. It's kind of cute, but very disturbing at the same time. And the clouds and stuff in the background look great. So good job there. But I want to show you the inside because there's another, there's a picture in here that could also have been an amazing album cover, which is this here. It's Vic wearing this, kind of like the Grim Reaper cloak or whatever, holding a baby. That just looks incredible. The lighting, that could have been an album cover as well. Maybe I would have liked the album cover even better, I'm not sure. Oh, it's on the back too, though. And let's see. So the track listing is Reckoning Day, Train of Consequences, which is an awesome song. If you're going to listen to one song on this album, it should probably be Train of Consequences. Addicted to Chaos, To Le Monde, Elysian Fields. Elysian, is that how you say that? Yeah, I think so. That's also another very good song. Maybe one of my favorites on the album. The Killing Road. Nice heavy intro there. The Blood of Heroes, Family Tree. Youthanasia, I find to be a very boring song. I Thought I Knew It All. Tried to read with the glare. Black Curtains, and Victory. The album has a very heavy sound in the sense that there's a lot of down tuning and stuff like that. But overall, it's slower, not thrashy at all. Kind of a darker, depressing kind of sound overall. It's well done, it's well produced, the solos are great as usual. There's no edge in this album at all. Like any edge that Megadeth had, in my opinion, was gone. But one thing I will say is that the vocals are really good. I think Dave's vocals are much better on this one than they are in Countdown to Extinction. You can hear some more of that gritty, vocals in this album. Yeah, it's not too much to say. Like I said, probably the best song on the album is Train of Consequences, which I actually have a short story about that. Not really a story, but a memory. So I remember when this album was released, Megadeth went on the David Letterman show. They actually performed Train of Consequences. And so I think they came back from a commercial or something, and then Megadeth started playing, and the camera panned from, I think, the audience over to the stage where they were playing. And while they were doing that, I can see that Paul Schaefer is the band leader of the David Letterman's band, whatever you call those guys. So you can see Paul Schaefer was playing along with the band, like just, in the corner there, not on stage with the band, but like playing off in his little musician corner there. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's weird. Why is he playing along with them? Is he actually playing with, am I actually hearing him play as well? I just thought that was weird. I'm like, that's kind of disrespectful, to play along with them. But then thinking about that yesterday, I kind of came up with another connection. Now, this probably has nothing to do with it, but I remember an interview where Marty Freeman said that he always had trouble playing the main riff of Train of Consequences, the one that kind of sounds like a train. And so I'm thinking, and I think on the album, he doesn't play the riff. I think only Dave plays that riff because he had trouble with it, apparently, something like that. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, is that why Paul Schaefer was playing along with him? Was it really him playing and not Marty? Probably not. Probably not. But that connection came to my mind. And maybe I was thinking, oh, the camera caught Paul Schaefer by accident playing that part. But anyways, that is not. Do not start that rumor. Oh, one more thing I'll add to this, or two more things. There's a lot of harmonica solos in this, which I'm not a big fan of. Not a lot, but more than one song, I believe. Not my thing for a metal album. And the other thing is, oh yeah, there was the making of this album. I can't remember what they called it. Maybe just the making of Youthanasia, I don't know. Man, I watched that thing a million times. It's like a documentary of the making of the album, like some kind of monster or whatever. I watched that thing a trillion times. I don't know why I found it so interesting. But I loved it. So that might be worth checking out if you like that kind of thing. Okay, that'll do it for today. Somewhat longer than I wanted to make it, but you know what, there's a lot of albums left. I don't even know if I'm halfway through, but the second half probably, there's more albums to cover, but I'll probably have less to say about each album because I just don't have that many memories of the later stuff that they released after this. So, but I'll try to make it interesting. There is one really funny story though that I can tell about one of the next albums, so you definitely want to stay tuned and watch that one. Don't miss that one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it relaxing. Hope you're all chilled out and sleeping. And I will see you guys next time. Take care.